And welcome to the Alouettes Flightdeck, podcast dedicated to Montreal Alouettes football, presented by our good friends over at SportBuff, where if you use the promo code Alouettes Flightdeck 10 at checkout, you will save 10% off your entire order. So go over to sportbuffshop.com, use the promo code, save 10%, and support local. I am Tim Capper. You can find me on X at Repact. That's REPPACT.
And I'm Cliffy D. You can also find me on X. Feel free to shoot me a follow over at Cliffy D.
What a week, eh, buddy? It is. It's been it's funny. I got a DM from David Arsenault of RDS. He goes, "When was the last time we had a Sunday night game?" It's like, yeah, it's a very good question. And I look it up. Oh, that's right. It was last year versus Calgary.
I was going to say, I'm a little surprised that David Arsenault didn't remember that, considering, I don't know, he called the game.
Yeah. But
maybe after a while they just all blend together. Who knows?
In these days, though, Cliff, when it comes to Alouettes football, Sunday games in themselves are now a rarity, considering the really the importance of Sunday games, the ties to history, the ties to YouTube, and everything. Mm-hmm. It really was nice to have a Sunday game, whether it was at night or whether it was during the day. And actually to take part in the TSN Sunday Night Football broadcast, wasn't it?
Definitely, and it kind of goes with the theme a little bit of the whole retro thing, especially with the celebration and honoring of the 1974 Grey Cup champions, with it being their 50th anniversary of winning that Grey Cup. Yeah, I mean, Sunday, funny to think about, but Sunday Alouettes football is kind of now retro in and of itself in some respects, because there was a time, especially after Labor Day, they would have Sunday afternoon games. And yes, the NFL was on, and maybe they would have lost viewers or not. But, if people want to watch Alouettes football, they're going to watch it no matter what. I mean, they may not like the Thursday night games. They may not even, some might not even like the Sunday night games. But if this team gives an entertaining product to watch, people will tune in, or they'll come to the stadium. And we certainly saw that on this past Sunday with the Alouettes taking on the Edmonton Elks.
Yes, that's for sure. And again, you and I mused about it after the game too. It's like, with all this history and the importance of Sunday, yet they still didn't play Sunday, Bloody Sunday.
Or any U2 for that matter.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So don't just say play just because it's a day game. You know what I mean? It's like, come on. That's part of history.
It's an homage. You're absolutely right. I mean, and it started with Sunday, Bloody Sunday, and then it transitioned into Beautiful Day. Both songs were very poignant and very fitting for Alouettes football. Like, to not have anything like, any sort of that, that historical nod to the U2 concert all the way back in 1997, which ultimately shaped what became the Alouettes of today in a lot of ways. To not pay homage to that was a touch disappointing.
Yeah, and it's funny, and you say, paying homage. That's what they did on Sunday. It would have been the perfect time to do that type of thing, especially with all the all the dignitaries and all the alum in the stadium for the game itself. But as we're talking, this week really, it's more than a Sunday game. It's more than just a regular season game. This game encompassed so much in itself, Cliff. But I think the most important thing, and we'll talk about everything in itself, though, is that the Alouettes did come away with a win, Cliff. They came away with another comeback win, 21-17 over the Edmonton Elks. As we're talking on Flightdeck Live, it is a very good Edmonton team, and it's funny. We joked and we talked about there. First half, Cody was not playing well, and then he sort of accepted the spirit of Davis Alexander for the second half, and he played the way Cody could play. So I mean, again, there were so many implications in this game itself. I mean, just besides the game, but I mean, what are you going to take away from it? We'll talk about the 50th anniversary stuff in a couple of minutes, but what are you going to take away from the game itself?
This game has been just like, it feels like every other game. Like I kind of say I almost feel like a broken record in saying this, but it's like the first half was a dog's breakfast. I mean, it just anything that could go wrong did go wrong. It just nothing was clicking. Everything was looking terrible. And, you start thinking, oh, did Cody Fajardo come back too soon? He's rusty. He doesn't look great. Austin Mack, can't get anything going with him either, despite all the hype and all the excitement of him coming back to the Montreal Alouettes after his stint down in the NFL. This first half was just, a comedy of errors more than anything else. And I thought, okay, well, you know what? We know how this story ends. They play like garbage in the first half, or they don't live. Sorry, I'm going to take that back. They don't play to their potential in the first half. Yeah. Halftime comes, they make the adjustments, and then it's like flipping the switch. They just come back out, completely different team, completely different mindset, completely different look to how they are on offense, defense, and special teams. And they start scoring points. They start connecting. The defense slams the door on the opposing offense. Anything whatever it's going to take to win this football game, that's what they do. And ultimately, they do come away with the W. They've done it 10 times now this season. It's remarkable. It's been a while, though, since the Alouettes have pretty much dominated from start to finish. It feels like the last few games have really been like that. Just first half is not great. Second half is absolutely gangbusters. I can't complain because it's working, but at the same time, you're just... And it's funny how everybody gets into the doom and gloom right away. Like, it's almost like, midnight struck for Cinderella kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, it was just that whole thought of, okay, they've been brought back down to earth. They're going to get humbled. They're going to lose to this team that they shouldn't be losing to, yada, 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 yada. And it's just like, and I'm guilty of this too. I'll be like, y'all, calm down. Do you know who this team is? Second half. Wait for it. And sure enough, that's what they do. And you just learn not to doubt anymore, or not even panic. I mean, okay, it's not a great look, but you just got to keep calm, trust the process, as difficult as it can be at times. Know that this team, this organization, everyone that's associated with this Alouettes organization knows what they need to do, and they're going to get it done.
It's true. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, it's, the return of Cody Fajardo, you could tell there was some rust. But I mean, everything just clicked together. I mean, second team this year that the Owls have held scoreless in the second half. Mm-hmm. This is the third out of 4 games that the Alouettes have shut out the Elks in the second half. And the Elks have only scored 7 total points in the last 16 quarters versus the Owls. I mean, it's again, can you imagine? And we've had some close to perfect games this year. Can you imagine once they come back from the break, if we can have a couple of these perfect games, especially with the upcoming schedule with Ottawa? I mean, for once in a long time, these games, I know, and I'm just looking ahead slightly, but these games versus Ottawa are going to mean a lot because
they're going to be massive.
Yeah. But again, as I said, you're right. I mean, another tale of two halves. But it gave the chance for everybody to shine. I said, whether, it seemed to be with Edmonton focusing so much on Austin Mack, it was able to open it up for everybody else. And like what's happened game after game after game, these quarterbacks have been able, these wide receivers have been able to step up. You had it with the 2 touchdown game with Reggie White Jr. You've had the earlier games with Tyson Philpott and stuff like that. And Charleston Rambo, there's another one too.
Oh yeah.
And we can easily throw Davis Alexander into this mix too. But look tonight, Cole freaking Speaker. I mean,
Cole Loudspeaker.
Yes, exactly. I mean, he had a hell of a game too. I mean, it's kind of the mantra that it is for the most of the years, the next man up. Who is going to be the next man up? We may have a ton of guys on the 6th game, and big names on the 6th game, especially wide receiver wise. We can only imagine people talking about this. Now, I know this is a topic for another day, though. It's the wealth that the Alouettes have in wide receivers are going to make for an interesting storyline coming up when these guys are ready to come off the 6th game.
Oh, absolutely. And it was insulting to look at the depth chart and think that Reggie White Jr. couldn't crack this roster. But How do you sit a Cole Speaker who's been absolutely clutch over the past few games? Charleston Rambo, who's just been a ball of fire over the past few weeks. The return of Austin Mack, obviously he's going to get an opportunity to show what he can do yet again. And of course, Nate Bahar, Shedler Furvius, holding down the national receiver position. James Fletcher too. I mean, if you can try and find a way to get him into the offense as well, I mean, it's it's truly incredible. I mean, like as great as what Reggie White's been in what's been considered like his renaissance with the Alouettes, to be able to have no choice but to leave him on the sidelines is unfortunate. But I mean, like that's just where the Alouettes are sitting right now. And yes, once guys like Tyler Snead, Tyson Philpott, Keon Julian Grant, when those guys come back, you're going to have an even bigger problem. I mean, wow. It boggles the mind to think that, okay, we've got an absolute treasure trove of wide receiver talent on this team. And Cody can't throw the ball to everybody. He's going to try, but first of all, not everybody can get on the field. So, I mean, like, you want to spread the ball around as much as you can, but what a problem to have. What an absolutely first world problem to have is to have such a wealth of receiving talent on this team. And let me tell you, folks, I mean, this is what you want. I mean, it's going to be a bit of a dogfight just to get playing time on this roster. But man, just knowing that the Alouettes have all this talent and just trying to find space for everybody, believe me, folks, that is a good problem to have.
Yeah, exactly. And also we're talking about guys out of the backfield too. You can't forget, and we mentioned it before the last couple of weeks, about Walter Fletcher, how well he's done too out of the backfield. And it seems to be progressing on both sides when it comes to running and receiving. But specific,
you could almost make an argument that he is one of the top receivers on this team. And he's a running back. Like, it's again the dearth of talent on this team, of guys that can catch footballs is second to none as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Let's give some of these guys some of the props. We'll talk a little bit more about the game itself. Hey, Cliff, Cody Fajardo for the game, and we've given him that monk here, 20, consistently consistent. It did show this week he was consistent, but then again, it took the second half to do it. 22 of 34 for 336 yards, an interception, which we talked about on the post game show, where it looked like it was a route issue when it came with Austin Mack, but 2 TDs, both of them to Cole Speaker. And let's talk about first about Cody before I get to the guys that he threw to, Cliff. Of that 336 yards, what really helped, obviously, was that 12-0 run in the third quarter. Could have been more of it, depending on the 2-point converts. But Cliff, Cody threw for over 200 yards alone in the third quarter.
That's remarkable. I mean, as I talked about, that first half was just terrible, and I believe that's where he threw the interception. Just an absolute comedy of errors, as far as I was concerned. There's no way Fajardo should have made that throw. You could also make the argument too that Austin kind of gave up on the route a little too soon. I mean, it's hard to say. It was clearly a malfunction at the junction. It happens. But yeah, for Cody to throw over 200 yards in the third quarter alone, it's remarkable. I mean, there were times where Alouettes quarterbacks were lucky to throw 200 yards in a game, an entire game. Cody does it in one quarter. I mean, that's wow. Like, it really does speak to, as his team makes their second half adjustments, and once Cody sees sort of the lay of the land and what he has to do, he just gets it. He just understands. He's able to see the field a lot better, and he makes the adjustments. He spreads the ball around. He makes plays happen, and I give him full marks. I mean, yeah, I truthfully, I would have much preferred to see Davis Alexander being the hot hand that he is and has over the past few weeks. I would have loved to have seen him play in this game, have the bye week, and then have Fajardo come back. But you know what? Cody did a phenomenal job. You can't be mad about that. Got to give him his props. He definitely led this team when they needed him to. He did what he had to do. He got the win. And we said it before. When Cody Fajardo comes back, this is unequivocally his football team.
Yeah.
I mean, despite how incredible Davis Alexander has been in relief of Fajardo, you knew that if Cody's able to get out there and play, he's going to play. And we spoke to him post game as well. And yeah, he knew there was rust. He knew that he made some ill-advised decisions, but he got it figured out. So I mean, what more can you ask from your starting quarterback?
Exactly. And as you said, one of the other things too that we've been really questioning about for most of the years, the running game. Fletcher, I think, I didn't go back and check, but I don't know if this is the most touches that Fletcher's had all year. He had 11 attempts for 54 yards, average of 4.9, which is not bad. He really was the guy when it came to running. I mean, thoughts on the running game itself, Cliff, because as I said, they're able to seem to be able to mix in the two things between running and throwing. It's not as Alouette supporters are used to be as it has been in the past few years. But I think Fletcher's finally it's getting going. He's not the guy who may not get you 100 yards every game, but he's also involved in total yards within the game.
See, and that speaks to his ability as a two-way player. I mean, yes, would it be nice for him to get more rushing yards? Absolutely it would. I mean, that's what you're paying him for, is to run the rock. But if he's able to catch and run, I mean, that's a run in and of itself. And yes, it does definitely count more towards receiving, but I mean, you just got to give Walter Fletcher the ball. I mean, whether it's running, receiving, the guy can do it all. Pass blocking as well. He definitely is able to help protect his quarterback as well. I mean, without question, this has definitely been a season to remember for Walter Fletcher. He's gotten the chance to prove that he can be the man in the backfield. He's done an outstanding job with just running the ball. Done an outstanding job being an additional weapon for Cody Fajardo to throw to. I mean, folks, if you're not excited having Walter Fletcher in the lineup, whether he's catching the ball or running the ball, you got to check yourself, because this guy is just simply an outstanding football player, regardless of what he's been asked to do. Whatever you need him to do, he's going to do it. And you can't ask for more than that from your RB1.
Yep. Cole Speaker did lead the team on 5 receptions for 107 yards. The dude averaged 21.4 a catch. Obviously on that 37-yarder. 2 touchdowns. Not far behind him was rookie Charleston Rambo, 95 yards on 3 catches. He averaged 31.7. But mind you, his longest was 50. Gorgeous catch too. Both two of the catches that he had, dude. I mean, they were just right over the shoulder. Right. Yep. Cody just dropped it in there like a dime.
Dropping dimes like a bank teller, as they say. And
there you go.
What a find Charleston Rambo has been. And it's so funny because I feel like he's in the what I would call the Austin Mack position, in the sense that when Austin Mack left for the NFL, who's going to take that spot? And arguably you could say that Charleston Rambo had taken that spot. Now with Austin Mack back in the fold, how does that work? How do you make that work? Because you want to give Rambo the touches, because he's definitely earned the opportunity that he's been given. But at the same time, you've got Austin Mack. I mean, you know exactly what he can do, and you got to give him the opportunity to be able to do that as well. Once again, this is a good problem to have. I mean, you've got 2 potential deep threats that can make plays happen, and both young men too. That's the other thing you cannot forget, is that these are both relatively young men. So much football ahead of them, and both have absolute opportunities to become all-stars and champions in this league. Wow. I mean, once again, I said it before and I'll say it again. What a great problem to have for this Alouettes offense is, who are you going to throw to? You can throw to anybody on this team, and they're going to make plays happen.
Yeah. Nate Bahar, 48 yards on 4 carries. Walter Fletcher's 45 yards and 6 receptions. By the way, I know this is me really just reaching, but Fletch had 11 attempts rushing that night, Cliff, and he also had 11 targets. I'm just saying. And then Austin Mack. I'm sure he was trying to get used to the what changes there had been in the playbook, but he was given many a chance. It did seem that the Elks were covering him more than normal. But 3 receptions. He did get 8 targets for 32 yards. Joshua Antwi had 1 catch for 9. Any other thoughts on this wide receiving core? As I said, Austin really got the chance. I think that maybe the Owls used it to their advantage of them trying to center on him specifically, especially in some of the plays. But thoughts on the return of Austin Mack to the lineup?
I mean, listen, we know what Austin Mack is all about. Yeah, there's a reason why he came back to Montreal. I won't call it unfinished business because he did win a Grey Cup in his first year here. But he knows what the culture is here. He knows what this organization is all about. He had to try the NFL. I'm glad he did. I'm glad he got a chance to test himself against some of the arguably the best receivers out there. It didn't work for him there, and I'm still baffled because it's you would have figured somebody else, another team would have given him a chance to try and crack their roster, but it's being released at such a weird time because a lot of the NFL teams are still making their evaluations of the players that they have in their own camp.
Yeah.
So they're not going to have time to, sit and evaluate. Okay, well, this guy wasn't good enough for the Atlanta Falcons. Why do I have to take a look at him? I sort of get that. And I think Austin kind of realized that too. It's like, you know what? I know I got a good thing in Montreal. I know I can go up there, be a superstar, and I can make a pretty good living at it as well. So for him to come back and be a part of this again, especially, I will say that the Alouettes don't need him, even despite the fact we talked about what a wealth of receiver talent was there before Austin Mack came back. And now you're just adding on top of a good thing with his return. To see him back in the lineup definitely is good because, yes, he looked a little rusty, which we had to expect that. He's got to relearn the playbook. He's got to get himself reacclimated with the Canadian game. I don't think it's going to take very long to do. I got a feeling by the time the Alouettes play the BC Lions on September 6th, he'll have it down pat. Everything, he will have. He got this monkey off his back, so to speak. Like he was able to get that, those open, those first day jitters out of the way. Now he can just focus on doing what he does best. And I'm excited to see what he can do against BC. And I think he realizes, okay, I'm back here. I'm on another mission. I wanted to win a Grey Cup. I did that. I want to win another one, and I'm going to do that.
Yeah. Talk about the we're talking about the second half there, Cliff. We got to talk about this defense because yes, again, there were some holes in the defense in the first half because look at the again the rushing, the Elks rushing attack. They did really really well. They really did.
Even without Javon Leake in the lineup, Kevin Brown made his return, and he that first half he was definitely running roughshod over the Alouettes.
Yeah, but second half they're able to get make the changes that they need to. For the game, the Alouettes ended up having two sacks on the day, both of them by Jeffrey Kenton Arku, and they came at times when they were very very needed. But they were still great sacks nonetheless.
He just ragdolled, the law firm as they call him, or MBT. Or Macbeth, whatever you want to call McLeod Bethel Thompson. He just straight up ragdolled him. Not once, but twice. I mean, Jeffrey Kenton Arku has definitely been an absolute force in the linebacking core. And for him to do that at home and looking so awesome, he filled out that retro uniform very nicely. I think it looked so clean on him and on the defense too. Like once they started doing what we expect out of them, my goodness. I mean, this defense has just been lights out in the second half pretty much all year. I mean, doing what you expect. Like we've come now to expect that they're going to slam the door and close, pitch a shutout in the second half as much as possible. We talked about how they do not want to give up these garbage time touchdowns or, give the team any sort of hope that they could maybe come back against this Alouettes team, but this defense has just been nothing short of phenomenal all season long. And, whether it's the secondary, whether it's the linebacking core, whether it's the defensive line, all of these guys come to eat and they just do an absolutely outstanding job. And hats off to Noel Thorpe once again. I mean, what do you want to call him, the chess master or the wizard or whatever it is, like you got to give him his props. Absolutely got to give him his props. He has just done an outstanding job with this defense yet again.
Yeah, KB Dento also 2 batted balls. You had a rookie Antonio Moultrie also do the same, and they were at times where we really needed to have a play made. And this is one hell of a stat for a guy who is leading. I think it's the league in defense. I think it's the defensive plays. I think that's what they're saying that he leads in. Tyrese Beverett Cliff had 10 defensive tackles versus the Elks on Sunday.
He is truly making a case not only for most outstanding defensive player. I think you could easily put him into the conversation for most outstanding player for the Alouettes this year. I mean, Tyrese has just been a ball of fire and just absolutely dangerous on
Goodness
defense.
gracious. Sorry, I had to.
Well, I said it before and I'll say it again. You can't forget the Bev. Never, never, never.
No. Let's talk about the Owls, by the way. First thing we had at first, obviously Cody, what people are looking at the wide receivers and how well they were doing, how well Cody was getting rid of the ball. A lot of people may not have noticed that Cody he really took some shots this past week, and he stood his ground. He didn't hesitate to run. He looked good running. That's the main thing. He didn't whatever was needed to be done when it came to his, his physiotherapy and stuff like that. And you know what? It's funny. He's giving props to his wife because many people don't know. If you don't know, his wife is a physiotherapist. So she was able to help with that type of thing. And I think there was a mention too, I think this past week in his TSN interview, Cliff, Cody even said they had slated him to come back at another time later in the season. He was actually able to come back early. And it really, even though we thought maybe David Alexander should have gone another week, Cody did really look good.
Yeah. And when we talked to him post game, I asked him about, how he felt like once, how his hamstring felt, just, times where he was forced out of the pocket and running and everything that. He said he felt great. It was, once he took that first hit though, it was like, but
yeah. Or that first run.
And that's the thing. I think a lot of people maybe not realize when it comes to coming back from an injury like what Fajardo suffered is that it's gonna weigh in your head a little bit until you get that first smack or that first you get that first run and you realize, oh, okay, my leg's not gonna fall off because I decided to go for an extra couple of yards. It's that mental sort of exercise you have to do to sort of get you get past that speed bump, if you will, and Cody did it. I mean, he said, once I got past that, it's like riding a bike. The muscle memory takes over, and you go out and you play the game that you're expected to play. And that's exactly what Cody Fajardo did in the second half. He played how we expected Cody Fajardo to play, and he was absolutely outstanding.
We also had some issues too at the very beginning of the game too, which could have been detrimental at that point. But we lost two players. One at the during warm up. Where there's a last-minute scratch, and we also lost Pierre-Levi Lestage also, I think, within the first couple of minutes. I think it was to a shoulder injury.
Yeah, so Jesse Gibbon had to come in his place. Can we please cancel warm-ups? I'm so sick of hearing guys getting injured during warm-ups. I mean, are they that necessary? What the hell do we have practice for? Why do you need to warm? Like stretching, yes, but these warm-ups must. What the hell are they doing? Like, okay, I freely admit I'm at the tailgate during warm-up, so I don't see what's going on. But my God, there must be something going on to the point where guys are getting injured. Feels like every single game someone gets dinged up during a warm-up, and I'm like, what in the blue hell are you doing during warm-ups? This does not compute. You know what I mean? It's absolutely incredible. But once again, gives opportunities, I guess, for others to step up and show what they can do, which is great. But at the same time, like, can this please end? Like, this trend has to discontinue. Yesterday,
Jesse Gibbon came in for Philip Gagnon, who was a last minute scratch.
My mistake.
And if I remember correctly, too, when it came to PO Lestage, is that I had to go back and check. I think he was actually a game time decision too. He was questionable to come because I don't think he practiced most of the week. So, but one thing I did notice, and this shows what type of team we are. He stayed, even though he was out, he stayed on the sideline the entire time in uniform. He didn't change into his civvies. So,
Gotta be there for your boys, I guess. That's
yeah. So either way, again with the win, the Alouettes do move to 10-1. There's a big thing made about the CFL this week about the Alouettes having the best 19-game run in CFL history. They're 18-1 in that time. It's very funny to see the reaction coming from the Alouettes organization, especially in the interview that was done this week with General Manager Danny Machocha on TSN 690 Melnick in the afternoon. He was like, "That's nice, but it's not something that we're centering on. This is something for the masses to, and the media to promote and to talk about and to applaud." They're just looking forward to the next game and trying to go 1-0. So, but still, you got to admit though, dude, 18-1 is damn good. We are talking about it because it is something that is a nice accolade, but hearing how Danny Mack and Coach Moss take on these historical items shows it how they're concentrating on the season rather than the entire history of this team.
And you can't rest on your laurels. Yes, these are nice accolades. These are nice. It's great to see everybody is giving the Alouettes their flowers and recognizing who they are. Let's face it, they are the reigning, defending, undisputed Grey Cup champions for a reason. And this is it, because they did everything they had to do in order to be this successful. They put in the work. Danny Machocha, Jason Moss, everything that they've done has worked. Whatever their manifesto is, whatever their mission statement was, I still remember talking with Danny Mack during our interview with him earlier this year. During the plane ride home from Hamilton,
yeah,
they were already they touched down in Montreal. They go for lunch. They're already preparing for 2024. And look what all that preparation has led to. Look where this team is right now. It is absolutely phenomenal. These guys have done the work. They have put the time in, and the players have bought in as well. Everyone who's on this team is on this team for a reason, because they can be a part of something special. They want to be part of something special. The ones that were here last year, they know what it takes to win a championship now. The ones who weren't here last year, they see what kind of work had to be done. They got to experience it during training camp and even through the first 11 games of this season. They see what they had to do in order to win. And let's not kid ourselves. This team has gone through its fair share of adversity, whether it's injuries, whether it's coming out flat in the first half and having to adjust and figure out your opponent in order to best them. That's what this team has had to do, and they've never shied away from it. They don't run from a fight; they run to the fight. And I think that makes a big difference when it comes to you talking about championship organizations, what they have to do, what kind of adversity they have to overcome in order to become a championship organization or remain a championship organization. And that's what the Alouettes team has done since September of last year. We're now coming close to that 1-year anniversary of the last time, like the last Alouettes loss that set off this 18-1 run, if you will. And I tell you, Tim, to watch this Alouettes team, how they operate day in and day out, whether it's on game day, practice, whatever it is that they're doing in order to better themselves and prepare themselves for what's hopefully going to be another trip to the Grey Cup later this year. You see the work that's being done. You see everything coming to fruition the way that it has, and it is. If you're an Alouette supporter and you're not impressed by what you've seen so far, I don't know what to tell you at this point. This team, this entire organization, top to bottom, has done everything in order to succeed, and they are succeeding in ways that, again, we have not seen a run like this in ages, I'm sure. And, there's no signs of stopping, to tell you the honest truth. I just don't see where and when the Alouettes are going to falter at this point, barring catastrophic injuries to everybody. I just don't see where this Alouettes team is going to falter later this year.
Yeah. Give props to the Alouettes for welcoming back Gino Lewis, his very first time in Montreal since he went as a free agent over to Edmonton. He did get on the board, and it was nice to see him do what he used to do in Montreal, score touchdowns. That was cool to see. And I'm sure for those who just love to see a kicker miss, well, Boris Bede was up to his things again. And all I can say is my heart grew 3 sizes bigger that night. So,
and once again, props to Jose Maltos. I mean, last week against this, or the week before against Saskatchewan, had his first miss technically on a point after touchdown attempt. Okay, it happens, but he was essentially perfect the rest of the time. The rest of the, against Edmonton, he was essentially perfect in his field goals and point after attempts. So, I mean, got to give him props. I mean, the dude has definitely been outstanding in relief of David Cote, and no signs of stopping there either. So once again, this just speaks to all facets of the football game when it comes to the Montreal Alouettes. They've got it down to a science now.
Yeah. Alouettes wore some absolutely stunning throwback uniforms, very similar to the ones that they wore in 2010. But they wore these for a slightly different reason. Obviously, the Alouettes did make them available to. They did make them available on the Game 1 ones. A few of them, at least currently, a few of them in an auction online where the numbers that they went for were absolutely just crazy. But also, props to the Alouettes for. From what we understand, because of the short turnaround time, the Alouettes are able to reach out to Royal Retros and make not only the jerseys that were in stadium available to purchase for fans, the minimum amount that were there, but also the ones that the 1974 team wore. And that's what I'm trying to center on here. Besides the great look that the Alouettes had, what a night for these guys to come here, celebrate the Grey Cup. By the way, and this just so happens to be the case, Cliff. This is the 3rd time that the Grey Cup has been at Percival Molson this year. I mean, once at the beginning for the championship banner, one for to tackle hunger, and then this week. But it's for a great cause, man. I mean, we were able to meet up with Ian Mofford. If you didn't see the interview from last week, please go and listen, or I'll go and watch. Great. It was great meeting him in person. I talked to a few other people too. Shook the hand of Sonny Wade after the game. Any interaction for you or anything that you took away from the Grey Cup ceremony? You know what I mean? The homage to the 74 Grey Cup team.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate. It was really well done, which, again, as we've talked about numerous times, the Montreal Alouettes just know how to pay homage to their heroes of the past, whether it's saluting guys, their jersey numbers are being retired, whether it's guys who are just retiring, period, or a celebration like this, the 50th anniversary of the 1974 Grey Cup victory. The Alouettes just know how to properly fit the past and celebrate it. And even if you weren't around for that time period, because you and I were, you were, as we discussed last week, you were just a little tot back then.
Yep.
I wasn't even born, but but yes, the Alouettes just know how to properly celebrate the past and recognize
wait a minute, are you
those
saying
heroes.
I'm old?
I'm saying you're retro.
Oh, that's nice. Okay.
You're vintage. How about that?
I like retro better. Okay.
Then retro you are. The one thing I will say, though, is when it came to the ceremony at halftime, I'm so thrilled that they were able to get it done in plenty of time to let the Ben Cahoon retirement ceremony continue.
I was wondering why there were so many. I swear I saw people crossing streams with both groups of fans coming in and out.
It's a ceremony that never ends, ladies and gentlemen.
Ceremony, yes. One day we'll have to give a little bit more context on that. But I mean, it's kind of if you know, what we're talking.
If you
about.
know, you know.
If you know, you know. But I agree with you. Great ceremony. Some of the names that were there, obviously, some of the names that weren't there, but they showed up in different ways. Even though Coach Levy was not able to be there, he had part of his family there that was able to represent him. You had a great story, which I still had to at least mention, is that Joey Fieri was going to interview IU, but
Junior IU,
Junior IU, and he started up with the conversation and he told them about his dad, and he got his dad on FaceTime and was able to do the interview with him that way. And that's what's so cool. I mean, just the stories alone, again, that we heard from Ian last week. A 19-year-old being a Grey Cup champ in his very first year. Not even 20 and he's a Grey Cup champ. And just seeing with these guys, and just that portion of the Alouettes, 74 being the first time that the rebranding with the Delta logo, the red, white, and blue for the Alouettes, moving away from the green and red, which they had been for the last 4 years, prior 4 seasons. Everything was magical on Sunday. It really was. And I think, again, props to how the Alouettes were able to do it right. They really, really were.
Absolutely. And just lots of little things as well. We talked about already the sponsorship patches, which they didn't have back in the day. But cool. to have those get a bit of a retro flair to them. If you were going through the concourse on the TVs, they look like, like rabbit ear TVs, like from back in the day. I mean, you kids won't know what I'm talking about, but people of Tim's and I's age, we remember watching TV like that, and it was a simpler time, not necessarily the best of times, but I digress. I mean, a lot of the little touches that kind of gave the game that 1974 feel in 2024, it was extremely well done. That is one thing I will say about the Alouettes, is when it comes to celebrating the past, they just get it, and it just takes little things like that. Even Joey Alfieri's post game stream, which, instead of watching Flightdeck live, maybe you're watching that. And okay, we don't judge, but even that was given a bit of an old-timey kind of look to it. And I thought that was really cool. I mean, that's just little things like that you may not notice at first glance, but once you go back and take a look at it, you're like, oh yeah, okay, that's pretty neat. That's pretty sharp. I like that. And that's what this whole game had, that feel to it. When it came to celebrating the past, I mean, they got it right. They nailed it. I mean, you can't be mad at any of this stuff. It was just so incredibly well done. Like the uniforms on the players, the little touches everywhere here, being able to buy a lot of the retro merch that became available. I mean, as they say, everything old is new again. It was absolutely outstanding.
Yep, I agree with you. Again, Alouettes win bye week this week. But that's not the end of the show for us this week, because there was just a touch more to talk about, wasn't there, Cliff? And I know we're going to talk about first, but how did you specifically want to transition into this little bit of news where we got lucky? We broke some information, but how do you want to go into this? Because I know we have a little bit of an intro set up.
That's a good question, Tim. You know what? The more I think about it, I think the best thing to do is have you had dinner yet?
No.
Because I'm feeling a little peckish, like I don't know why I got a craving for some Mickey D's. I think we need to order a combo. I think we need to go get something to eat at McDonald's right now and get a combo. And I say we go get the Big Mac combo. Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, Austin Mack has signed a long-term deal with the Montreal Alouettes. 4 years. 1, 2, 3, 4 years. The Big Mac will be in the 514.
Yeah, as first reported by the Alouettes Flightdeck.
Thank you. You're welcome.
I tried to do some history, some historical research on this, because I think the last 4-year contract in the CFL was for, I think it is, I'm trying to go back. I've seen the thread already, but there have been some, I think it was as early as 2019 was the last 4-year contract in the CFL. But 4-year contracts, really, they're a they're a rare breed. They really are in the CFL, and especially for the Alouettes.
Oh.
You know, because as far as I could see, and I'm still doing some research, so I'm going to go with what I currently have found here, Cliff, is that the last time that the Alouettes had a 4-year contract signed by any player was by Vince Ferragamo back in 1981.
Ooh, talk about a throwback. Talk about retro. Yeah. Talk about the Delta logo, even, because
yeah, exactly.
he rocked the Delta logo back in the day.
Yeah. So I mean, and besides that too, as I said, it's we don't know about the money. But do you have in front of you what our sources were also telling us about Mack's contract?
As we had 4 full years, fully guaranteed money, by the way.
Yeah. So it's not 3 years. We wanted to make sure when we asked this question to our source, specifically, it's not 3 years and a option. It's 4 full years. And that last part that you just mentioned to me, Cliff, it's fully guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
Because usually you hear guys after an X period of time that it would be guaranteed. You know, you have to be with a team for X amount of years.
Right.
It's technically 2025 will be Mack's 3rd year. Technically. Even though he'll play, it just been over 1.5 seasons, 2.5 seasons.
Well, yeah, essentially 2 seasons. By and large, 2 seasons, because he still technically is on his rookie deal.
Yes,
and
it was originally 2 years. Yeah, it was originally 2 years. Yeah,
yeah, and to not have an option year, like to have like 4 full years guaranteed, is massive, and it doesn't kick in until 2025. Like February 2025 is when this contract officially kicks in. So I mean, give props both to Austin and to Danny Mack for getting this deal done. Holy moly, that is absolutely fantastic. If you went and bought an Austin Mack jersey and you were worried because he flew the coop, so to speak, down south, worry no more, folks. Your jersey is going to be good for a while now.
Yeah, and we can, again, we haven't heard any money, but if we can only go based on the reports that were put out there, late last year, on what they were going to do, tear up his rookie contract, sign him to a new deal. If it's anything around, I think it was between the $230,000 and $250,000 a year mark. Mm-hmm. That's on par with the Geno Lewis as an example. We know what Geno went for when he signed with Edmonton. So,
yeah, Kenny Lawler too. He was also making some serious bread in Winnipeg. So, I mean, listen, talent costs money, and to the best of my knowledge, I do not know if any of the marketing money has been earmarked for Austin. Again,
that's a BC thing.
Yeah, well,
which I'm sure from what we're seeing from people talking on it, I would not be surprised if that loophole is closed somehow, but we'll see.
It's this is far beyond our level of expertise. I mean, we'll sit and speculate about it, but at the end of the day, folks, Austin Mack is here to stay, and we could not be more thrilled. We know we've known Austin now since last year. Friend of the show. Got to get him back on it here again. There's no question about that. I mean, we are beyond excited to see Austin Mack stay put here and build a home here, and
exactly become like Geno, putting down roots in the 514.
Yep. I mean, he's got a young family, and he sees the value in being a part of this organization. He wants to be the man here. He wants to help lead this team to multiple Grey Cups. I mean, you couldn't ask for better as far as I'm concerned. So I feel safe speaking on your behalf, Tim, to say that yes, we are beyond thrilled. There's no other way to describe it other than beyond thrilled that Austin Mack is going to be a Montreal Alouette for not 1, not 2, not 3, but the next 4 years. You absolutely, positively love to see it.
Yeah. Speaking of things we do not want to see, was finally the CFL and the Alouettes, may know most specifically the CFL first and foremost. There's finally an announcement and a decision based off of from the arbitrator about Shawn Lemon's indefinite suspension. And, he was originally, the Lemon was suspended for wagering on CFL games. But after all that time, and I think the meetings were done back in early August, finally came down that an independent arbitrator has upheld the CFL's indefinite suspension of defensive lineman Shawn Lemon for wagering on CFL games, including one in which he played.
We should note that this occurred in 2021 when he was a member of the Calgary Stampeders. He didn't gamble on himself as a Montreal Alouette. Let's just make that clear right off the bat.
Yeah. Quote, we respect the arbitrator's decision and the important precedents that it has established since CFL Commissioner Randy Ambrosie. The integrity of any sport is paramount. Players, fans, and anyone associated with our game must be able to believe the league's fairness of competition. And I'm sorry, I have to read this next one because it's going to make me laugh because it leads into a whole new other subject, which I know we have to at least comment on slightly. Quote, today's decision upholds the standard and underscores the CFL's position against match manipulation, unquote. The independent arbitrator's decision is binding. From there, the Alouettes collective did put out a statement. Earlier today, the Alouettes were made aware of the independent arbitrator's decision to uphold Shawn Lemon's indefinite suspension for the gambling on CFL games back in 2021. The Alouettes organization has always supported the league's rules on gambling and will continue to do so. The integrity of the league is the utmost importance to us, and we respect the independent arbitrator's final verdict. Since joining the Alouettes in July 4th, 2023, Shawn Lemon has been an important part of our locker room and our community. We'd like to thank him for all the contributions he has made to our team over the last 13 months. The Alouettes organization won't be making any further comments on this matter. So,
well, let's talk about integrity, Randy Ambrosie.
Yes, let's, Cliff.
I mean, now I want to make something very clear. Should Shawn Lemon have been punished for gambling? 1,000%. It's not. It's so not a good look. It really, especially gambling on yourself on the team that you play on. Like, yeah, even if you are betting that you expect to win and you expect your team to win and you're betting accordingly, you're still not supposed to be gambling. Absolutely, Shawn Lemon should have been punished for that. An indefinite suspension, though, no. I take umbrage with the fact that Shawn Lemon is suspended indefinitely, and Chad Kelly basically only had to serve 9 games for harassing a female coworker. So you're telling me that Shawn Lemon would have been better off harassing one of the female members of the Alouettes versus placing a single or maybe 1 or 2 bets. Maybe. I think it was 2 bets he made for like 70 euros, if you could believe that. I'm sorry. The math ain't mathing in this sense. Like, I get it, letter of the law, all that jazz. Yes, there is policies in place that are supposed to prevent players from betting on themselves, placing bets on themselves. I get all of that 100%. What I don't get is an indefinite suspension for something like this. And you can make yes, there are precedents in other sports where players have gambled on themselves, whether it's gambling for their team or against their team, and there's a whole ethics thing in regards to that as well. Like, are they going to throw the game as a result to make sure that they win their bet? I get all of that without question. I just have a very hard time wrapping my head around the idea that Chad Kelly did what he did, got punished for it. He absolutely got punished for it. But his suspension, for lack of a better term, was finite, whereas Shawn Lemon's is not. I have a very, very hard time with that. Do I think Shawn Lemon made a mistake? 100%. Do I think he should be punished for it further? Truthfully, no. I think he was suspended. He did miss games. I'd go so far as to say, okay, you set a you want to make an example of him. You want to set an example as to why you shouldn't be gambling on your team or anything like that, placing bets or anything of that nature. I get that. You want to make an example, fine. Suspend him for, what do you miss now? 4 or 5 games, I think, for the Alouettes.
It's quite a few, actually. I think it's up to 6. It's 7 weeks, I think.
In any event, however many games he missed, I would go so far as to say that the point's been made. If you wanted to hand out a punishment, that would have been it. Like, it just feels like where you set the Mendoza line as far as punishment goes in the Canadian Football League, and for what? To me, that's what's skewed. That right now, that's what I have a very hard time with. I mean, see, and there are going to be people that are still defending Chad Kelly. That, okay, he did his time. He served his punishment. He deserves to play. Again, I have a very hard time with that as well. Simply because
look also too at how Johnny Manziel was kicked out and what he was kicked out for. And he's told the story. It's no secret. He's told us what he did, and he did it on purpose to get kicked out.
Yeah, and let's not forget too, Chad Kelly is back in the league only after signing a last chance agreement. Why doesn't Shawn Lemon get a last chance agreement? Is gambling really so much more hurtful or detrimental to the league than harassing a member of the opposite sex, who, by the way, is a coworker? I mean, it would be. I mean, we've seen examples in the NFL and in other leagues of players harassing or doing untoward things to women that aren't a member of the team. The fact that this is essentially one of your coworkers that you're making a unsafe work experience for, I think extrapolates it tenfold. But as long as you sign that last chance agreement and you promise never to do it again,
which he had problems with. They heard it was in the news. It's like he didn't want to sign it. He didn't agree with it, or somebody, his counsel didn't. But I mean, and by the way, it's not just us two that really don't understand the reasoning. By the way, everything I agree with what Cliff said. It's not just us. It's not just others across the league. You have respected media across the country speaking out against this too. People who are very well-known names, are speaking out against the hypocrisy. That word, by the way, is being used a hell of a lot. Hypocrisy in this situation.
Where's the lie? I mean, that's I think hypocrisy is a very good way of framing it, because, yeah, I mean, you really are. I said this before when we first got in the news about Shawn Lemon, what he's done, and then the appeal process, and so on and so forth. I mean, comparing what Shawn Lemon's done to what Chad Kelly did is literally comparing apples to fire trucks. I mean, these are completely different things. I mean, still not a great look from either gentleman, but I mean, to even try to compare the two or justify, use one to justify the other is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. To me, and even more so ridiculous, how many betting sites have sponsorship patches on CFL teams? How many times has FanDuel, DraftKings, Bet365, Bet99, all these are featured all over the TSN and RDS broadcasts. You go online, even to the CFL's website, you'll see the occasional pop-up for Bet365, or what was the other one that the other former players were at? Bet Royal or something like that?
Yep.
So,
yep.
I mean, gambling is a part of football nowadays, whether you like it or not. I mean,
by the way, speaking of it, it's just a side, and you didn't know I was going to say this. When I was doing the research for the 4-year contracts, I came across something from Pete Rozelle, and I think it was back in the early 70s, where he said, basically, I'm paraphrasing, betting would become the death knell of Major League Sports.
I mean,
and this is in the 70s.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily call this a death knell per se, but I mean, he's ends up looking pretty pathetic at this point. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's
so this is definitely a tough situation because we've got a lot of respect for Shawn Lemon as a player and as a person as well. We've gotten to know him as well since he joined the Alouettes, and
who's, by the way, has been still practicing with the team without pay because he's been allowed to.
Yep. In hopes of being able to continue his career and hopefully retire on his own terms. Let's not forget, he is not a young man anymore. I mean, his career is, I won't say on the, it's on the back nine. Let's put it that way. Like, he's not a young man anymore, and it would have been nice for him to go out on his terms, maybe with one more Grey Cup championship. And that probably is not going to happen now. Even though I don't know how the Alouettes, if the Alouettes were to win the Grey Cup this year, I don't know how they would recognize him. If they do recognize him, I don't know if that would be allowed. Again, that's a conversation to be had for another time. But it is just unfortunate that, while what Shawn Lemon did was not a smart move.
Not cool. Yeah.
Not fine. You really shouldn't be gambling on yourself or you're placing bets on your team. Even if it's, you're betting on them to win and you expect to win. It makes it a little bit better, but not at the end of the day, no, you still shouldn't be doing that. Definitely you should. I agree. Shawn Lemon should have been punished, but this is beyond. And to even compare it to the Chad Kelly situation is preposterous at best. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you can't even compare the two. So, and then to hear Ronnie Ambrosi talk about integrity, ensuring the integrity of the game when you've got a person harassing female coworkers or essentially accused of harassing female coworkers to the point where it gets to a lawsuit or actually I think it was a civil court case, but
a civil suit. Yeah, but
yeah. In any event, it still happened, and you're worried about the integrity of the game. With all due respect, give your head a shake. Seriously.
Yeah.
Do better.
Yeah. So, well, again, it is what it is, and we're gonna end up seeing what is done, if anything. But as of right now, the decision has been made. It really has.
Now, with that in mind, in attempts to turn a negative into a positive,
yes, sir.
As you know, cut down day in the NFL has happened, and a lot of potential Canadian players were also released.
Yeah. Yes, I know.
If the Alouettes have, and just based on their statement, it sounds like I hate to use the term moved on from him, but when you say, we wish you, we thank you for all your service and all,
that's how it sounds. Yeah.
It sounds like you're being in future endeavored, right? Like that's how it comes across to me. If the Alouettes have decided, okay, I guess Shawn Lemon is no longer going to be a thing for the Montreal Alouettes, do you now take that opportunity? Do you take that spot on the roster, so to speak, and do you go out and get Matthew Betts?
Yep.
Could you imagine? I mean,
did you see the reaction today when it was announced that he was released?
And a lot of people were saying he's going to go back to the BC Lions. I'm like, oh, hold on there. BC Lions have, I mean, they've been using their marketing money very wisely. I mean, as far as security.
And Lawal Ugalak also got released.
Yup. And that
released on injury payment. We don't know what the injury is.
I got my thoughts on that, but that's
yeah.
And again, I fully expect Matthew Betts and Lawal Ugalak to continue to pursue their NFL opportunities as best they can. But could you imagine, Tim, if somehow, the wizard Danny Machocha finds a way to bring back not one but maybe both? Bring back Lawal Ugalak and bring in Matthew Betts to replace Shawn Lemon.
Oh man!
I mean, if you're going to blow your brains out with the marketing money to circumvent the cap, I would go to PKP right away. I'm like, sir, Mr. Pelodeau, sir, could you bust out that checkbook? You got to get these big boys, especially one of them's Quebecois. I mean, hello, marketing money. That's how you market your Quebec-born players.
If Danny did his due diligence for Mac, I would imagine he may have done the same thing for Lowell or any other player.
Yeah.
So what we'll see. And people, by the way, go if people haven't to. And the only reason why I'm promoting this because it's a great interview. Do go listen to it. It's on the TSN 690 audio archive. Go listen to it. It's really a good interview with Danny Mack.
I mean, if Danny Mack could pull off a coup like that, if he could bring back a Lowell Ugalak, I'd be thrilled, obviously, because yes, he too, in his rookie year, did absolutely outstanding stuff and was an integral part of that Grey Cup championship team. But if you could bring in a Matsier Betts as well, holy crap, that would be, it would almost be unfair. And I'm here for it.
Yeah,
I would 1000% be here for this. And what a great opportunity too, to help. Again, you talk about what Jason Moss talks about in promoting, the city of Montreal, the province of Quebec, the 425, all of that stuff, to bring in Quebec-born Matsier Betts to play for the Alouettes on this defensive line, which already is absolutely dangerous. Wow. Just, I say, if you've got the opportunity to do it and you got to blow your brains out with the marketing money, I say do it. What do you have to lose? What truly do you have to lose?
Yeah. Speaking of archives, if you've missed any of the past episodes, make sure you head over to our archive. That is everything from the past 8+ seasons. So head over to www.alouettesflightdeck.ca. On social media, we are over on X, and that's at Alouettes FL Deck. Facebook over at Alouettes Flight Deck Pod, Instagram and YouTube, and that is over at Alouettes Flight Deck. And also over on YouTube, don't forget we have our post-game show, Flight Deck Live, where all the episodes are there. And as usual, we will be there for you, whether it be at home or an away game. So stay tuned to all of our socials for the next episode is going to be broadcast. Also, besides those places, we do have a new place too, and it's over at Twitch, and that's twitch.tv/Alouettes Flight Deck, where you can see currently also an archive of the last recent episodes of the of Flight Deck Live. Also, too, we are coming up on the fall season. That's hard. I can't believe I'm saying that already. Yeah, Al's have 3 home games left. I'll have to say that. Yeah. Don't forget, you can head over to our merch store over at flightdeckgear.ca and maybe grab a Cartoon Bird 56 t-shirt for the upcoming 2nd annual meetup during the tailgate for Thanksgiving Monday game versus Ottawa. So again, head over there, and that's over at flightdeckgear.ca.
If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you hit the like button, hit the notification bell so that you know that we go live. You know when the next podcast is going to come out, whether it's audio, video, what have you. Throw us a comment, show us love. As we always tell people, if you like us, tell a friend, tell a coworker, tell everybody. If you don't like what we're doing, tell us. Let us know how we can be better, how we can improve your experience for the Alouettes Flight Deck. So make sure you check that out. Make sure you're subscribed, following. However you consume this podcast, make sure you interact with us and let us know what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong.
Yeah. Last note for the show this week, as it's already been announced, even though the Alouettes did clinch, with a win this week, they could finish no lower than 3rd in the CFL East. The Alouettes can actually clinch a playoff spot. So head over to the CFL website to check out the scenarios. But yes, even though the Alouettes are on a bye week, they can actually clinch a playoff spot in the 2024 Grey Cup playoffs. So
pretty wild to think about. And once again, another winning season for the Alouettes has already happened, and we're not even into September. I mean, you talk about, a lot of people will say the CFL season doesn't truly get underway until after Labor Day. We haven't even hit Labor Day, and the Alouettes could potentially be a playoff team. They, for all intents and purposes, they are a playoff team. It's absolutely incredible, folks. I mean, this is exciting.
Yeah, for sure. Again, obviously no game this week because the Alouettes are on a bye, but we will be back next Wednesday to talk about any news that may have happened over the weekend, and obviously to look at the matchup between the Alouettes and the BC Lions at home at Percival Molson Stadium. So for everybody here at the Alouettes Flight Deck, for Cliffy D, I'm Tim Capper. We're on Final Approach.